Hi guys. So a little while ago we had a class assignment in AP US Government and Politics, and it was to create a presentation about a topic and how it related to federalism. Now we chose education, and the type of presentation that we chose was a skit. So this is Robert, this is Hallie, you should know who I am, and we're going to be performing the skit for you now.
Let's go.
Now, in addition to this Federalism in Education skit project that we did, we also made a cake to symbolize federalism in education, and I will be making a vlog about that shortly, so you have that to look forward to. Alright, thank you both for meeting with me here today. I understand you have busy schedules, but to be fair, should I explain who we are first?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I probably ought to do that. Alright, let's try this again. So before we begin here, just a little bit of exposition and camera adjustments. It's just...
That's a good point.
Okay. This is our friend the national government. This is the Washington state government, and I play a somewhat hyperbolized version of me. Okay, starting again. Take two. Alright, thank you both for meeting here with me today. I understand you have busy schedules, but to be fair, so do I. I've brought you here to discuss a matter of great importance to your Seebeck area constituents. Bringing clubs back to Academy. Now, I realize this is a local issue, but the administrators at my school and the district have both turned me down, and I didn't know where else to turn.
Sorry, sir. I don't know if that's under our jurisdiction.
Yes, and besides, we have bigger education issues to deal with.
Oh, really? And what might those be?
Pretend I'm whipping out a long, boring document. Let's see. Teacher salaries, overcrowded schools, charter schools, technology, lack of diversity, busing, standardized testing, funding, Common Core schools, start time substitute teachers. Shall I go on?
Oh, hang on a minute.
Now hang on a minute indeed. Continuing.
Now hang on a minute, national government. Less than half of those are national issues.
I beg to differ, Washington, not D.C.
Does this have anything to do with federalism?
It has everything to do with federalism. The 10th Amendment guarantees that states have the power to do whatever they want in issues that aren't specifically mentioned in the Constitution, and that includes education.
Not so. U.S. v. Darby established that the 10th Amendment only says states have powers of their own and does not imply their powers are superior to those of the national government.
That's a good point. Plus, didn't McCulloch v. Maryland establish that the national government has certain implied powers which go beyond those specifically mentioned in the Constitution?
Yeah, it did, but I don't see how bossing the states around about how they teach their students is something the national government should be doing.
Bossing you around? Objection. Educational standards are critical to a nation's well-being, and there's no getting around that. We're not telling you how to teach your students, we're just suggesting what ought to be taught to them.
I'd hardly call it a suggestion when a substantial portion of our grant money relies upon our fulfillment of your race-to-the-top education policies.
So, which one of you is responsible for the Common Core standards? Those are obnoxious and confining, and I think we could all do without them.
I wouldn't go that far. Those standards were vigorously researched in order to provide the best preparation for college and career. And the implementation of the standards is managed by the districts, allowing for localized innovations.
It was you, wasn't it?
Maybe a little. But the National Governors Association only established these standards to better meet the nationally enforced guidelines of Obama's Race to the Top Education Initiative and the No Child Left Behind Act.
Calm down, Washington. We've replaced the No Child Left Behind Act years ago with the Every Student Succeeds Act, a much more relaxed piece of legislation.
Guys, I think we're drifting from the main topic here. Clubs during Academy...
Well, the states are still spending a lot of their time and resources trying to meet race-to-the-top standards. I suppose it's pretty nice that our schools aren't punished when kids don't perform as well as they're expected, but I think the emphasis on national standardized testing shouldn't be so high. It's a lot of pressure on kids and teachers.
National standards are critical to our nation's high educational standing. How else could we measure everyone's academic prowess across our country equally and accurately? Not all schools are going to have the same academic vigor or level of difficulty.
Now wait a second. First off, what high educational standing? In comparison with whom? We're not doing so hot right now at the international level, you guys.
True, which brings to mind the case of Finland. Finland beats us educationally on many levels, year after year, and they only have one standardized test at the end of their senior year of high school.
That must be nice.
That may be the case, but Finland also has considerably greater federal control over their education system.
Finland's education system also has considerably greater financial support from their national government with fewer strings attached.
Well, that's arguable.
As is anything, I suppose. Which brings me back to clubs during academy.
Hey, and while we're on the topic of financial support for education, maybe the national government should consider not having so many conditions for providing additional funding. San Antonio Independent School District versus Rodriguez in 1973 established that it was constitutional for Texas to decide how to distribute their educational funding. Clearly, this means other states should have that right as well.
For block grants, sure. But the money we've been talking about has come from categorical grants, and in some cases mandates.
Guys, do we really need to be discussing the nuances of fiscal federalism right now?
And even when we do just give you money, you use it wrong. What about the McCleary case? You're still trying to figure out the right way to provide adequate funding for your school districts.
Oh, so you think the national government would be more effective distributing money to every school district in every state? That sounds like ineffective micromanaging to me. Just leave the job to the states.
That's a good point. Plus, I'm not sure I trust Betsy DeVos to manage my education. She has virtually no experience with public schooling or managing a bureaucracy, and her captioning people can't even spell education correctly.
I'll admit, our Department of Education is going through a bit of a phase right now.
The whole national government's going through a bit of a phase right now.
Please let it just be a phase.
Hey, we don't choose our leaders. The people do. You only have yourselves to blame.
That and the Electoral College.
So since we're talking about the Department of Education...
Oh, not this again.
Not what?
The Department of Education of the federal government has been under scrutiny by Republicans and most state governments ever since it was established back in 1979.
It was established that recently?
Yeah, and we were doing just fine without it, thank you very much.
That's debatable.
And it's been debated repeatedly. My Congress has been bickering about it so long that I pretty much have a perpetual headache by now.
You mean like every high school student who's been forced to take a new set of standardized tests every couple of years?
Technically, you're not required to take a lot of those standardized exams.
I thought so, but last year they made me take the 11th grade standardized math test even though I'd already passed the algebra EOC. I could have sworn the course catalog's graduation guidelines contradicted that.
Yeah, you didn't need to take that test. The district just wanted you to because they get money for providing that testing data on a per-student basis.
Drat! Why was I not informed of this?
If it helps, my Congress decided that you don't need to take the biology EOC to graduate anymore.
Well, I already took it, so that's not exactly helpful.
We're getting off topic, though.
Thank you. Now, the reason clubs are so
Obviously,
important...
education should be a national concern. Socializing the youth is one of the main purposes of government, and that includes providing civic education opportunities.
Yeah, maybe, but the state government is a government too, and we know better than the federal government what education strategies work for our citizens.
It's like what Thomas Paine said in Common Sense. Why should we be governed by a tiny island a continent away which knows little of our regular affairs?
You do know DC's not an island, right?
Okay, it's not a perfect analogy, but the point is that...
Sorry, I messed that up. Maybe if the national government would stop setting all these stupid guidelines and standards, we could focus on realigning our school district funding to comply with the McCleary decision.
Well, maybe if you hadn't mishandled those funds in the first place, the national government would have a little more faith in you, and you wouldn't be losing thousands of dollars for continued noncompliance with a state court decision.
Look, you guys have been arguing about this for centuries now, much like almost every power divided between the two of you. I don't think bickering any more about it today is going to help anyone. Can we please just shake hands and agree to stay frenemies?
All right. I'm sorry, national government.
And I'm sorry, too. Sorry that you Washingtonians were too lame to come up with your own state name, so you had to steal half of ours, basically just asking for confusion.
Well, I'm sorry that the other half of your name, as well as one of your federal holidays, is based off the tall tale of an Italian buffoon who thought he'd landed in India.
Well, if this isn't the weirdest thing I've ever seen, thank you for your time.